Hello and welcome to Lunch and Learn Wednesdays presented by Venture Portland. My name is Jacob Falkenberg. I'm the Communications Director at Venture Portland, and today we're going to be talking about Instagram for small businesses. And we've got a very special guest with us today from Multnomah Village Business Association and an expert in all things social media, Kristen Earle. Kristen, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my name is Kristen Earle. I work for the Multnomah Village Business Association, but I should say that all of the views expressed here are my own and are not reflective necessarily of Multnomah Village Business Association. And what that means is that at some point I'm probably going to start talking about AI and how you shouldn't use it. I have been doing this for 20 years. I have a background in nonprofit fundraising, events, communication. I've worked for education, obviously businesses, mental health organizations, and I'm old enough that when I joined Facebook, I needed a .edu email address to join. So that tells you how long I've been doing this. So I'm going to talk a lot about what is Instagram, how does it work, how would you want to talk, set up posts for yourself, what's successful, and I really believe that you need to know where an app has been to know how to use it in the future. You need to know what the app's true north is. But this is also to say, interrupt me if you have questions. I'm going to have, depending on how time goes, I'll have some step-by-step walkthroughs we can look at, as well as some integrated video, and we'll look at some examples of Instagram posts and the different types of posts. Um, but if you take one thing out of this entire presentation, that would be that if anything I say keeps you from posting, you ignore it. The best Instagram post you make is the one you actually get out there. So, with that said, let me tell you about Instagram. So, Instagram was originally founded as an app called, which was much more like Foursquare. So, it was about checking into physical locations. They quickly realized that the internet was changing towards visual sharing, so they pivoted to that. The name Instagram comes from instant camera, so like a Polaroid, which has self-developing film, and a telegram, which is a message that was sent across long distances using electric signals via Morse code. People kind of think of it as like the first form of text messaging. Um, and if you want to learn more about Instagram, they have a website, and there's a telegraph there and an instant camera. So the Instagram as we know it today was founded in 2010 as a sharing application, or app is probably the word you're more familiar with. I looked it up last night and they currently have over 2 billion monthly users, and that's billion with a B. Originally, Instagram was used primarily for interpersonal sharing, but then people in the public eye, as well as businesses and brands, realized that it was a great way to get your content in front of potential customers. So, and then one thing I'm going to have you always keep in the back of your mind as we're talking about this is that Instagram is owned by Meta. Um, and while you have rights to your content, Meta will also use your content that you upload. And Meta is a company that owns Facebook, Threads, which is like Twitter before it became what it is now. They own Messenger, which was formerly a part of Facebook, WhatsApp, and more. So this is a huge company, right? And if you are an artist or your brand is very visual, you want to keep that in mind. So, what are some business goals for Instagram or some personal brand goals? Um, how can you get more users in front of your content is what it boils down to. Um, these three things: marketing reach, direct commerce, customer support or engagement. Those are the things you want your Instagram account to do for you, but that doesn't mean that every time you post that a post has to do all three things for you. So when I'm talking about Instagram, when we get into kind of the mechanics of how it works, there's two modes that you want to think about. There's you as the creator, and then there is the user, who is the person ingesting your content. And some of those areas will overlap a little bit, but we should talk about them. And we will go in depth into more of these, especially these four parts that are on the screen more. But for you know, right now on the creator side, you've got Reels, which are short form videos, anywhere from like a second to 3 minutes. And these were introduced as a response to TikTok taking market share from Meta. Stories are time-based content that disappear after 24 hours or sooner if you decide to delete them or remove them. And those can be static images, those can be videos, those could be, you can post anything that you post to Instagram to stories, or you can create original content. A single is a solo image, so that would just be one photo. And then a carousel is multiple images. And those each have their own best practices for posting. Um, so the parts of Instagram when you're a user are your feed posts, your stories, which again are time-based content, and your explore page, which is which is where you go to search or Instagram suggests something to you, and then your reels, which again are short form videos. So here's a little static image of what my Instagram feed looks like. So, are you able to see my mouse as I'm moving?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, great. So up here where these are where your stories would be found. And these would be suggested to a user based on the algorithm. And I'll talk more about the algorithm later, but think of the algorithm as the formula that gets you the user content. So up here in the circles, is where you would see that. This is, if anybody's potty training, this is a great book that Laura Burke wrote. This is my main feed, and this is passive content. This is content that I don't have to look for as a user because it's suggested to me. Um, so I don't go in search of this necessarily, but Instagram will show me content here, and if this was live, I would be able to scroll down and show you. They show you your feed based on past interactions, your relationship to the creator. How often do you view their content? How often do you go searching for their content? Do you look at it all the way to the end, whether it's a video or get to the end of a carousel? Do you share their content? Do you save their content? Do you comment on their content? And then the other thing is recency, which is how it gets suggested. Um, so down here is where you would go. Sorry, this is down here is where you would see your explore page. You would go to search, and then that would pull up a grid that will show you suggested content. So people like you like these kinds of things. And frankly, it can be very embarrassing, your suggested for you page. So I'm not going to show you mine. Um, and then if you may see Reels in your feed, but if you also want to go to Reels, you would go here to this what looks like the play button on your I was going to say VCR because that's how old I am. Sorry, I'm having one of those days. So, before you create, you want to think about a few things. And again, like I said before, if any of this is too much, ignore it. The best post is the post that you make. So when you are starting to design your Instagram um, Bible, your book, how you're going to go about it, what it is you're going to think about, you want to choose a few themes that are kind of your true north, if you will. Everything you do should point back to them. So maybe it's something like uh commerce, go to website, uh, a whimsy. It could be something as easy as that. Um, And you should figure out what your voice is for Instagram. And it's fine to have different voices across different platforms. And what I mean by voices is how do you talk to the user? How do you talk to the people who are consuming your content? Is it whimsical? Is it formal? Is it just your voice? Do you always use contractions and abbreviations? Um, and I will say, like, for the work I do, well, Limit Village has a different voice on Facebook versus Instagram versus on Threads, where I pretend to be a viaduct in a trench coat. And you think I'm kidding, but that actually, people respond really well to that. And then you want always to be posting consistently, and that's whatever consistent means for you. You don't want to do feast and a famine. So, for example, if you were to post 10 amazing pieces of content one week and then nothing the next week, that's not going to do you any good because you're not feeding the algorithm, which again is that calculation for how people see your content. So, it would be better in that case to post 2 times one week or 2 times and 2 times the next week because then you're being consistent. The algorithm knows what's to expect from you. Um, because if you don't feed the algorithm on a regular basis, it's not going to do anything for you. I think of the algorithm as an alligator, and I just need to feed it like little morsels, so then it will bring viewers to me. Um, but I like the idea of an all-knowing alligator deciding things for me. And then the other thing is that you need to keep in mind is that you can't control how a user is going to see your content or what they're going to be doing when they see your content. They could be distracted. They could have the sound off. They, they could be watching another screen. So, and we'll talk about this a little bit more about the hook, but there are certain touch points you want to have in your content to give you the best chance of having your content absorbed. Let's talk about the algorithm, my friendly alligator friend. So think of it as all knowing, right? You put something into Instagram, it goes in a black box that is the alligator, and then the alligator spits out something to the user. We know what we're putting in, and then something happens, and then something else happens to the user. And maybe they'll get our content, and maybe it'll be someone else's content. Um, and then the other thing that's important to know about the algorithm is that what works for a story may not work for a reel, may not work for a carousel post, may not work for a solo or single image. So that's and we'll talk about those. And but there are some places of overlap, so like you have to memorize 4 different steps. So how oh, apparently I got ahead of myself. So how do we lure an audience? And yes, that's like a fishing metaphor. No, I don't go fishing, but I just wanted to talk about hooks. So we're not talking about necessarily music hooks, but needle drops can be very important in Instagram. Your hook is your image or your video, and then your written text, and then any spoken words or text overlay plus music. And this is an example from a local business out in Lake Oswego called Slay Dog Studios. She is a solo shop. Her name's Anne. She's fantastic. And she makes stickers and keychains and other kind of tchotchkes for dog lovers. So hopefully this will play. And it's very short. And we're going to tell it to stop playing. But so here we go. Here's our hook. Um, you open a door. There's a cute dog. You've got the overlay text. You get closer to the dog, and then here's your call to action. They can follow Sly Dog Studios. And what I really like about this is it works whether you have the sound on or off. It's even better with the sound on. Um, but it ends in a really clear call to action. And then the text down here, I'm going to call this overlay text, and this is going to be called main body text. So down here, um, and then it tells you a little story down here, and that's frankly great. Um, I probably watched this too many times, and it my husband got tired of hearing the little clip of the music earlier. This is one I did for Fat City Cafe, which is in Multnomah Village. And we'll talk about those elements again. I conceived of this originally as a reel, and it just wasn't working. So I just took some still photos. I slapped an I Heart sticker over this person's face. Um, we've got the name Fat City Cafe, and we've got zucchini, and somebody's trying to pay with a zucchini. And the side text is Apple Pay, check mark, Zucchini Pay, no thank you. And what's the background for that is this works on two levels. If you know Fat City, then you know that the previous owners only would let you pay with cash, and that the current owner, Matt, will let you pay with all forms of accepted currency. Turns out not zucchini though. Um, and then I just put the Easter egg in at the end of Matt holding the zucchini. And Instagram was being glitchy the day that I did this, so it doesn't have any music, but I wanted to get it up. And fun fact, I grew that zucchini myself through sheer neglect. So there's probably a metaphor in there about something, but I'm not sure what it would be. So let's talk about content. And again, if anybody has questions, feel free to pop in the chat and Jacob will let me know. Um, so how do we do this? How do we Instagram? How do we make engaging content that will get people in front of our brand and our stuff? So how do you decide what makes good content? And that depends on you and what you do on a day to day and your industry. If you're in a naturally visual industry like art or a restaurant, your content's pretty easy to find in front of you. So I would recommend when you're starting to post, you should think about when you entered your business or started your business or industry, what interested you? What didn't you know about the process? Um, or you can think about like if can you make a how-to video of how to be a customer of your business? Can you give a tour of your website? Can you make a tutorial about how to order something? Do you have a mascot? And by a mascot, I mean like, do you have a little stuffed animal or even better, a live animal? Because pets do wonderful numbers, I would always say. I'm not saying just like go out and get a pet, but maybe you should. A fish is low maintenance. Do you have any customer stories you want to share? Um, Do you want to, like, what's your goal? Do you want to direct people to your website? Do you have a brick and mortar that you want to direct traffic to? Um, you might tell me you spend all day answering emails on your laptop, and I would say, well, why don't you make a time lapse of yourself? Use or just like focus on your mouse and how you move it around. Because people will actually watch that. Do you want people to sign up for your email list, run a little promotion? Maybe they can win. Or, and this is one of the things that I like to do when I need a bunch of content, but I don't want to put in a bunch of work, is I run a tag us on Instagram for a chance to win a $25 gift card to your business of choice. And then people will tag you in their stuff, and then you can use it on your own account, which is pretty great. Um, but with all that said, the best content is the content you post. And don't worry about things needing to look a certain way or, um, things to be super polished. Unless that is your aesthetic, then go for that. Hopefully these links will work. So this is one that they DIY facial workshop. So this is Jasmine, who is from Essence Skincare, and she spends most of her day like what I call making potions. So she's making lotions, face masks, uh, things like that. And that's not the right one at all. All right, never mind. Let's go to a different example. So this is one that I made for Multnomah Village, which sometimes I just go and hide things in the village, like really low cost things, and then tell people to go find them. So, here you go. As you can see, I couldn't even have the sticker up the correct way when I first did the video. And that's it. I have the overlay text, so if somebody's sound is off, it says find me. And then it says find me in Multnomah Village. It's a little video that, again, I couldn't have the sticker facing the correct orientation the first way, so that's bad on me. But it was a quick video clip. And we got some good engagement. I mean, so I'm gonna stop right here and talk to you about what you're seeing on the side here, the left here. So these are likes. This is where comments would go. This is if someone wanted to repost it. This is the share button. So they could share it to a user, they could send it in a message, they could share it outside of the Instagram app. This is if you wanted to save it and more. So, what was great about this, I posted it across a couple of apps. I was actually told there were people like running down the street to go find it, which is not usual, but good. And then they found it and tagged us in their post about finding it. Um, and it was great. It was minimal effort, sharing. So, again, to speak to your content doesn't need to be that professional necessarily. I was hired to make when I originally started with the business district. I was hired to make a certain kind of post, kind of a professional, slicker looking thing, and that did really poor numbers for us. Like nobody wanted that out of this business district. They wanted something that felt a little more authentic and a little bit more fun. And that's why I find things like this where I'm just like post it and push it out. And that works really well for us. People aren't looking, especially with small brands and small businesses, they don't want something manufactured. They want to be a little piece of you. Um, so that's why you'll notice that a lot of Multnomah Village things look a little slapped together. Um, Facebook, surprisingly for us, yeah, the more polished something looks, the better it tends to do. So we'll see. So I want to talk to you about the different kinds of posts that we could make. Um, Actually, before I do that, I wanna issue a caveat here. And when we talk about successful posts, I'm talking about successful posts in this moment that we are speaking in July of 2026. Back to the algorithm. Sometimes it changes and you don't know how or why it has changed until you see your numbers starting to tank. So, an example of this is last year at this time, the biggest driver of engagement the algorithm suggesting your content to someone was those hearts, those likes. And that has changed in the last year. So likes don't mean as much. Now it's more about what time does the user spend with your material. Are they watching your video all the way through? Are they leaving comments with 4+ words on them? Are they sharing? Are they reposting? So what I would have told you a year ago wouldn't apply today. And what I'm saying today may not apply a year from now. Um, But right now, in this moment, Reels are currently your best method for growth on Instagram. But with that said, you have about 3 seconds to capture a user's interest. And what does that mean? That means that if they don't watch for 3 or more seconds, it's the algorithm considers it skipping. And this may be a bit in the weeds, but that tells you why you need that hook, right? And one of the best, or I think user easiest methods to create reels is the Edits app from Instagram, which is a free app. And then I'm going to walk you through. Here is just a screen capture I did of myself using Edits to show you how, in how few steps you can actually get something up and out. So, good place. So this is the Edits main screen. I chose a random video of my potatoes on the deck because this is what I send my nephews. And here I'm talking over it. And then you can see over here, you probably couldn't, but I could silence the video, the dialogue that I was talking. And then I decided to find a song about potatoes to play over it. And then I was like, ooh, make some text here. Garden tour. And you can see you can spread it out and pull the garden tour text to be in more of the video if you want. And then my phone just got a little glitchy for a while here. And then I tried to fix it. As you can tell, I just kind of do something once and then I'm like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't. Then you go to next when you're happy. It will compile the video for you. And then you can choose where to share, whether you want to share on Instagram, if your Facebook's connected, if you want to send it in a message, or if you'd like to download it to someone. And at the end of the power or the slide deck, I have a whole list of resources with hyperlinks. So if you want to do any of this more in depth, or if you are a different kind of learner, those resources are available. So what happens from edits after you press share to Instagram? So it takes you to Instagram that you're connected to. It shows me I'm logged in as myself as opposed to a business. I'm choosing a front page image. Like, what's the cover image? I wrote some text. Welcome to my garden tour. I could, let me pause. I could tag people. I could add a location. I could use hashtags, even though those don't really work on Instagram anymore. I could do an interactive poll. I could ask a question. Um, and yeah, well, hey, it's not where I wanted you to go, but that's okay. Sorry again. I'm not using my normal setup here, so like I said, we can go in and then like I said, hashtags have been appreciated on Instagram, and now it's all about kind of keywords. So instead of hashtag garden PDX, I would just put garden PDX and then containers because I grew it in a container. Um, so for the business district, instead of putting hashtag Multnomah Village PDX, I now write Multnomah Village PDX. Shop small, Southwest Portland. Hashtags still work on Facebook, so if you have a good following over there, still use them. And then Threads, which again is the Twitter like thing in Meta, option in Meta, they use keywords as well. So then you can see scrolling back down, you could share it to your Facebook as well. It posts automatically to your carousel. If you wanted, you could tag people or add them as collaborators. And again, there's information about how to do that in the resources tab at the end. Oops. Sorry, I said boops like that. I have a 4-year-old, so everything is like sound effects. So yeah, carousels posts, I would use edits. It's I think the algorithm also tends to share it with more people if you use the edits directly. app because it'll show up as like made in edits also with your post. Carousel posts are things that I have a lot of fun with just because I think that they should tell a story or there should be like a surprise stinger at the end or something. So let's walk through how to make a carousel post. And this is one I did in the app. So this is in Instagram itself, and I didn't use edits, though I suppose I could have. And I was like, I'm just gonna make a post about some of the books on my bookshelf. And so I went in, I selected multiple because I was gonna do a carousel. Here's some books. And I was like, oh no, I want Tom McCall to be first always because he's, Tom McCall. And then so now it pulls me out here. I can add some music if I like. I just chose something at random. The Psycho Killer. Not really thematic with Tom McCall, but oh well. Um, and I should say when you're making these posts, you're gonna hear the first like 3 seconds of a song over and over again as you try to get like your needle drop right, as you try to edit things. So just do that by yourself. Just like if you live with someone, don't do that to them. They will not appreciate it, and maybe they will not appreciate me for having shown you how to do this. So here's some overlay text again. Reading. I moved it up because I don't want to like uh you know not show Tom's face. And then I can add a caption and again a poll or a prompt. So a poll I could be like, is Tom McCall um the best governor whose last name was McCall? I can tag people, I can add a location. If I had made this with AI, which you absolutely should not do if you're a small business, I would tag that. And then, so here's my carousel as it stands right now. I can add a caption. I can add a single caption for all of this, and this would show up under each picture. Or I can choose multiple captions, and then I can write a caption under each um, image in the carousel. And apparently, I chose to write "Don't die of dysentery" because I'm a professional, and we all like swag. So those would each have 3 different captions underneath them. You can choose who you post to. I could invite a collaborator. I could post only to myself. I chose everyone for the audience. And yeah, then it posted. So, um, so here's a carousel post I did from Multnomah Village. And again, when I say like people like things that look real, like a person did them, this is what I'm talking about. It was a Saturday. We had a bunch of events coming up in Multnomah Village, and I literally just drew a butterfly. I'm not an artist. Um, wrote Saturday in Multnomah Village, what's coming up when. My 4-year-old drew a little bit on it for me. Um, the text over here tells you exactly what to happen and where. I have tagged people where appropriate. And then the carousel just shows, here's the mural paint party, here's Beaver Fest, here's the Little Hop, Bun Bandits um, collaboration. And that was it. And now handwritten lists like that do way better than if I'd like put something in Canva that looked like a notepad and then typed it all out. So again, it's going to be what works for you. But sometimes the simplest is what's best. And you can't hear it on here because I took static grabs. But I try to have audio of some kind, whether that's music or, famous lines from a movie or something that plays over my carousels or my single images, because again, the algorithm likes that. So they're more likely to suggest your content to someone else based on that. Which is kind of silly, but it is what it is. So successful posts, if you're doing a solo image, maybe it's informative. That's fine. This is Seeking Space Yoga. Again, this was fine. You can see down here that they've tagged some people. in the post. I'm not a big fan of this font, but that's fine. And yeah, it does exactly what it's want. Here's a call to action, sign up. So how do you measure success? That's going to depend on you and what you want to get out of things. Um, and so one of the things you can do, so like if your goal is to drive people to your website and that's happening more, you can see that on your back end. Great. There you go. You don't even need to dig into Instagram's metrics because you know that something you're doing is working. And again, you never have to do any of this. You can spend your entire life not thinking about metrics, but I would be remiss if I didn't show you how to use insights from Instagram. So you can go into oh my goodness, what was it called? We can see it back here. View insights. So self-explanatory on a post, and you can pull up your account insights. You can see for individual posts how things are performing. Is it just your followers are seeing it or your non-followers seeing it? How are people doing with reels, your posts, your stories? Just how are things performing? And different tools are available to different types of Instagram profiles. And different tools are available if you are a paid member of Instagram. But I don't believe in paying for things, so I don't do that. So this is my big scary. You don't own your Instagram, okay? It can be taken away from you without warning. You could get shadow banned. Last year, when they were changing the way the algorithm worked, when they were about to introduce their own reshare function, the business districts, Instagram started getting like we saw our views tank, we saw our interactions tank, our suggested content tank, and I didn't know why. And then weeks later, we started getting messages about our content from Instagram about our content not being original. Because back then, the only way to share people's content was to like manually share it on your own post. And even though we were tagging everyone and giving credit, the algorithm was like, "Oh no, that's not okay anymore." And so we were shadow banned, which is when your content's not going out anymore and you don't know why. So with that said, I don't make Instagram your only thing. Always be building your own email list, have your own website. Um, if it goes away tomorrow, you're not getting it back. You may not be warned. Like I said before, Meta is a huge company, and the odds of getting a live person to help you as opposed to a bot isn't likely. And I've seen people who have they've lost their business pages, and they've had to start over, or they've just chosen not to engage in it again. And that's really hard to lose all your followers, lose like your 8,000 followers that you've worked hard for. So that is my caveat about it all. Here are all my resources that we can go through. But right now, I'd like to open the floor up to any questions.
Thanks so much, Kristen. Yeah, this is a really helpful overview of some of the different features that businesses can use, and just thinking about the different types of posts, and what might be appropriate for certain types of content versus others. And I know it's difficult for businesses to consistently think of new things to post. Um, do you feel that there's any benefit in resharing other businesses' content or content from other accounts that are relative to your industry? If you can't think of anything fresh to post at that moment, is there a benefit in sharing existing content?
Um, so that is a way to still get when you share that content, the it'll show that you shared it to a user if they see it. So that is something. But I would say more if you choose a posting style and schedule that works for you. That's the most important thing is your consistency. But it's so much fun to make friends with other brands. There's one credit union that like I turns out I've been We've been going back and forth for 5 years. It's been the same person, and I just met her in person. But we always try to comment on each other's posts. We always try to kind of game the algorithm together. And that's something that you can do too. If it doesn't matter if you're an artist and your best friend is a contractor, like your contractor friend can lift up your posts. You can send it to them and say, "Hey, would you comment on this?" Um, so yeah, there is some value, but it's very it doesn't do much for you and it doesn't do much for the person that you have shared.
Good to know. I also noticed that there's a collaborator function.
Mhm.
Have you used the function? Do you find it helpful? And what would be a situation where it might be appropriate to use that function?
So yeah, I use the collaborator post frequently with the business district. So if, say, a shop like JP General shop makes a reel and they would like us to kind of co-author it, that's where the collaborator post comes in. They'll send me an invitation that says, "Hey, would you like to collaborate?" And I say, "Of course I would. That sounds fabulous." And then so we'll show up as co-authors on that. But one thing that we can't do on that is see the insights on it. So it may be on my grid, it may be part of my content, but I can't actually see what it's doing. So that's the only kind of downside to it. You can also tag people in it. So they get a notification, they show up as someone involved in the post somehow. That doesn't mean they sign off on it. We have a local arts center that I tag in a bunch of things that um, are maybe not necessarily directly related to them, but are tangentially. So they know that I'm thinking of them. It's like sending a little postcard from your heart, like tag. So yeah, I find those to be useful. I mean, I think anything where you can show that you're working with someone else who is beloved or something else that's beloved is great.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Kristen?
Hey,
Feel
hey,
free to
Kristen.
chime in. Hey, Dan.
Yeah, hey,
Dan,
how are you? Um,
good to see you.
so good to see you. What do you find is the biggest barrier for businesses to get started? You basically rifled through this and you make it look so easy. And I know that some people are just paranoid to kind of put themselves up public like that. But just from your perspective, what do you find is the biggest barrier?
Just starting.
Yeah,
Just starting. I can tell you all to go and, I could give you three post ideas right now. Like, go take a post outside your window and tell me what you see and how it relates to your business. Take a picture of your website or take a screenshot of your website and talk about what you were thinking about when you had it built. Um, Again, if you have a puppy, a cat, always take a picture of them, especially in your workshop. And you just have to do it the first time, and then you're like, oh, okay.
so you're a
It's
human.
Yeah, show you're a human. And the resources I have in the PowerPoint again are going to show you, there's some step-by-step content of how to do things. And once you master the technical side, you know what buttons to mash. It's pretty, it's it, you once you have your momentum, keep going.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else with anything that came up during the presentation, or just something that they've been struggling with on Instagram that they want to talk about? Yeah, Carrie.
Hi, and my apologies if I missed this. I had a call, a brief call that came in the middle. But does anyone have any recommendations for resources who can help actually produce the social media with all of our board members being fully employed in other jobs? That's our biggest thing. And teenagers, I can't get my sons to do it.
Mhm.
But and I tried to hire a summer employment workforce paid person, but it was too late. And I'd love to know if there's any like internships or things that you know of that could help me get the actual content created after we define the strategy and the themes.
Yeah, PSU and their communications department's always a great resource. That's the kind of thing that I do for the business district, and I can also recommend a few other people who develop content. But yeah, it's really just about you have to have someone whose job it is because it is a job.
Right. And
Um,
and it's hard to get people to volunteer that. And right now we're sort of rebuilding, so we don't really have budget to pay someone.
yeah, definitely
Mm.
understand. When I started with the Multnomah Village Business Association, they were very passive in their socials. It was really about other people's content and pushing them up. So when you start doing your own, that's like a whole other.
Yeah. Do you spend like 10 hours a week on it?
Um, I spend across the platforms at this point probably just when it's a normal, like when we're coming up on Multnomah Days,
Mm.
which is August 15th, which is our street fair.
Yay.
Obviously things get busier with that. But at this point I've got it down to about 10 hours a month.
10 hours a month. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that savvy, so it takes me a lot longer. Okay.
But it also helps that I live in the area. So,
Right.
I'm physically in the village a
Yeah.
lot. So I'm just like, boop, and then,
But if I could, if somebody who were very good at social media, if we gave them a job description and said 10 hours a month is what we're hoping to keep you at, it would be reasonable.
yeah, I mean, that just depends what you're asking them for. Are you providing them with the videos and the images and you just need captions and the technical side done, or do you need them to come in
Come in and do it
frequently?
everything, like a
Yeah.
local neighbor who has 10
Yeah.
hours a month to do it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I
Welcome.
appreciate that. And for your presentation. It's great.
Thanks.
And that actually brings up a good point, Kristen. In your work with the district, are you going out and capturing all this content, or do you kind of put a call out to the businesses that are members saying, hey, if you got like a sale coming up, or if you got something interesting going on at your shop, send me photos, send me video, and I'll, put it up on the business association's account.
Yeah, so some places they have their own social person and they do all their own posting and then we'll just collaborate. They'll send the collaboration requests. Some places will reach out when they're doing something and say, hey, can you put this together for me? Or I will go physically in and sit with them and teach them how to do it themselves or help them put something together. But I was doing a lot more of that when I first started with the district. Now I think people are feeling pretty competent and successful with a lot of their posting, which is why I, spend like 10 hours a month on it because I don't need to spend a bunch more time.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the most time
Um,
intensive thing is, physically going out into the district and
mhm,
trying to capture stuff on a regular basis. But if you can get, multiple people feeding you content instead, I think that'll save a lot of time.
mhm. Yeah. And it's fine. Like our board is really helpful. So Um, if I'm like, hey, Peter, can you step outside and take a picture of the sunset right now and send it to me? He will. Like, I don't need to physically go into the district necessarily.
Awesome. It looks like Rochelle has a question.
Yes. And you may have covered this when you talked about the multiple captions on
Hmm.
doing a carousel. So my question is, when I do, so it looks like I can toggle between multiple captions and single caption.
Yep.
My question is, when I do multiple caption, then and I'm on the page that I do the caption, is that the only thing that will show in their feed is that first multiple caption? So if there's something that I need them to know, it needs to be on that first one. Is
I
that
would put it in that one unless the caveat with that is if somebody reshares your content, they can choose which picture shows up when they reshare. So, like, let's say they really like the second picture, they might reshare that, and that'll be what appears to another user. But in general, yes.
okay? Okay. So do you have any guidelines about that? Are you like, are you fine with that it might just seem random and be a standalone picture that just has not connected to anything else kind of stuff?
Well, like I said, it should somehow point back to your themes, right? Like whatever your true north is. Um, But, with carousel captions, it really depends on the tone of your post and what you're doing. Sometimes it's like, I did one that was like, smell the flowers, do this, become a bee, smell more flowers. Like, just in Multnomah, it was just like silly, but it was about appreciating like the places you can sit in Multnomah Village and just smell flowers. Um, I'm not sure if that's answering your question though. Like,
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it'll be about that picture or that slide or
mhm.
whatever, but it's not like it has to tell the entire story for every single
No,
one.
no,
So
I,
that's just
assume that your first on a carousel, your first caption is your hook, right? And if you get them in that, then, you can do whatever you want as it follows.
I love it. Thank you.
Okay, well, we are nearing the end of our time here today. If there's any last minute questions, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, we'll wrap up, and I can send a follow-up email to everybody who RSVP'd with a link to the recording and some of the resources that we discussed. And yeah, if you've got things that come up after the meeting. I'm sure Kristen would be happy to uh, give her contact information to share anything else that we weren't able to cover today.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll get it all to Jacob and he can send it out.
Well, Kristen, thank you so much for being here and taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk about this. Obviously, this is just the tip of the iceberg for a lot of people. You can go really deep down the rabbit hole of Instagram,
Hmm.
but I think this is a great starting point. So hopefully we can keep the conversation going. And thank you all for being here with us today, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Get posting.